Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to another episode of the Two Tokens podcast. This time from the kitchen table at Two Tokens Central in Rotterdam, with to my right the founder and CTO of Ledger Leopard. And you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me. My name is Jeroen van Mechelen. I'm the CTO and founder of Ledger Leopard. We're, let's say, a Web3 company specialized in decentralized technology with a big team where we build solutions for all kinds of customers and all kinds of branches. So,
And we'll come back to that in a minute.
yeah, great.
What kind of solutions, because we had
We
an
will.
interesting discussion in the prep. And to my left,
I'll just do a quick introduction.
Yes.
Thanks for having me here.
yes, yeah.
Name is Mario Natella. Actually, I should add also my Dutch second surname Verschuren, but that doesn't. It's not too well.
Verschuren.
Yeah, it's not too friendly in English.
Oh, it's pronounceable.
It's pronounceable. It's
Yeah,
pronounceable.
yeah,
Maybe I should go like Verschuren. Something like that. Anyway,
But you, Italian Dutch.
yeah, we added the surname after I got married, so
Oh, okay.
That's
really
it.
modern.
Yeah, yeah.
really modern. Yeah.
Yeah.
Partner at Haarlem Capital, that's an investment fund specialized in fintech since 2022, so since last year when I became partner. Then our focus also started switching to crypto. So I'll tell more about that, where we're focused on crypto and what we're doing, what we also did together with Jeroen and Ledger Leopard. So where we invest broadly is wealth management, credit management, retail payment, and now also we're looking at crypto, let's say from an institutional perspective.
And so, just as a matter of interest, so I have it right. Are you by nature a techie or more a businessman or both or
Investor.
investor?
Yeah.
Still, you didn't answer my question, huh?
No,
I know you are a
Yeah.
techie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but what that means is that I'm where I'm focused on also in within Haarlem Capital. I'm focused on the deal side. So from sourcing all the way to getting a deal done, drawing the strategies of the companies that we acquire, and because I like operating from a big picture perspective. I get lost in details, so I have other partners that are stronger than me in details and in execution. So that's
And so, are you investor or more, private equity acquisition of companies?
so from within the fund, Haarlem Capital, we're an investment fund.
Okay.
So with another partner in the fund, Thijs Groeneveld, we manage the entire acquisition process, and then we basically pass it on to the other partners that are very strong in managing the companies that we acquire, our portfolio companies, making sure that the business strategy is executed, managing the team. So they are the ones usually getting the board positions. They're much stronger than me in details and operations.
And so, what kind of companies do you look at? Early stage or growth companies?
So if you look at the scale from venture capital, so presentation and pizza money, to private equity, which are basically cash machines, we let's say more mature companies where you can look at EBITDA and all kind of measures. We are somewhere in between. So we look at companies that have created product, service, that are in the market, but maybe struggling to scale, maybe struggling to expand internationally, or maybe struggling to pivot. And in that phase, that's where we invest in. The biggest value that we bring is mostly operating into the regulated financial system, and especially when it comes to crypto, like everybody's struggling with that. So let's say getting access to the regulated financial system is where most companies go nuts. So they and with crypto is a major mind shift. With other companies, it's more a matter of setting up the operation in a specific way or in a more scalable way.
So Jeroen, let's focus on this because he's using the word crypto very easily,
Very
nonchalant, right? But
Yeah.
you and I know that it's not like that, right?
No, it's a bit broader perspective, right? So you can look at this at crypto as the volatile market where every youngster is spending their allowance on these days. With there's obviously some serious investors also. But it's a market where crypto is broader, right? With the case we did was, for example, we're using asset management. But you can crypto is also, like we discussed previously, always related to blockchain and stuff, but you can tokenize stuff without blockchain. The nice thing here is that we have a growing economy with tokenization, wallets, verifiable credential, that kind of stuff. So that's how I look at it from a broader perspective, to say so.
Yeah, so Ledger Leopard has been in the market for better part of 7 years, I think. Right?
Yeah,
So
7
you're
years.
one of the pioneers when it comes to engineering decentralized solutions. Let's call it solutions rather than building technology for the sake of technology.
Great.
Right? And we're very glad to have Ledger Leopard on board. And two tokens, we try to stay away from the word, we try to stay away from the word crypto.
Oh, okay.
And we try to stay away from the word blockchain.
Okay.
And the reason lies into the fact that when we started in 2019, there's a group of people who are afraid of crypto, anything crypto, because it was associated with scam projects and what have you.
Yeah.
So what we focus on now is end users' value in projects that use crypto technology. And in that regard, for instance, an exchange had a nice article in the newspaper 3 weeks ago where it said, where crypto technology is used to build an exchange.
Yeah.
And that's what we're interested in. So we're more interested in the tokenization part of things, token economy. And as Olivier Ricker always says, crypto is a token, but token doesn't have to be crypto.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And,
he says that.
Yeah, well, he says a lot, but he probably said that.
How's he doing, by the way?
I'll give him that. Yeah, but yeah, I totally agree. And if you look at it from that perspective, right, it's everywhere in our society already. So like we discussed with security, GWT tokens, PKIO uses it. So in your normal life, people see it much more than you think. But on the other hand, I like that it's used in crypto, but the use cases in crypto are so like you always have the freaking pump and dump cases where they blow up a crypto and that spoils the whole name of crypto itself.
If we go back a few years in the
Yeah.
1940s in the stock market, 40s, 50s. 40s we were busy with other stuff.
Yeah.
But on the 50, I mean, it was the same, right, with the stock
Yeah,
market.
I
That's
totally
just a
agree.
sign of the immaturity of the market, the inefficiencies.
Yeah.
But that's actually, on the flip side, an opportunity if you want to do things well, if you understand the technology, the opportunity that we have at hand, and you are willing to do things right. So that's
and also if you look at companies like Binance, for example, it's a bit sketchy these days. But if you look at the technology and how they deliver it, well, it's really great. It's so well done. It's such a nice platform, but. Then again, the crypto part comes in, and then it becomes.
And then it creates this. I don't know if you follow the case Binance US.
Yes.
And then there's one of the extract from the court case, and it says, as Binance CEO bluntly admitted to another Binance compliance officer, we're operating a unlicensed security exchange, bro. So that's when the crypto part comes in, and you don't do it. You can do a Binance technology is amazing. It's basically a banking system available 24/7, right? For exchange, for liquidity, for transactions, but it's not done in the right way.
No, but the techie is speaking, right, from a technology stack, how they brought everything together. Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah,
I
agree.
But talking about that, and I'm also guilty as charged, in the last, since 2000.
Charged of what?
Because in the last 10 years, the blockchain community has been talking primarily technology, tech, right? It was the techies that kind of led the revolution, and which is fine. That often happens, right? But in going forward, we had a lot of people who drank the Kool-Aid and we really got into it, and they got a little bit too much into it, I guess, right? They forgot one important thing, and that is the end user.
I totally.
And so I dare say that in society, if you talk about crypto or even tokens for that matter, or NFTs, they think, oh, that's the way to get wealthy fast, right? But that's not the point. That's not why we did this, right?
No.
So if we talk about trusted technologies or decentralized technologies and the solutions that we can bring to society, that is the narrative that we should be having. And then you create value that creates in turn interesting companies that Harlem Capital could invest in.
Yeah, the shift, however, is happening. I mean, so I've been looking at the market since 2017. I've seen a few weird things since 2017, but basically, if we approach it in a structured way, and then we get to where we as Harlem Capital are, how we as Harlem Capital are looking at this industry. So it started obviously with the tech, with technology, with techies, they were trying to disrupt the fabric of the financial system. That's basically like, let's be honest about it.
Satoshi Nakamoto.
Yeah, and there's still a small group of the fundamentalists that are still believing in that mission.
Yeah.
But it is the by far the smallest group, honestly, by now.
Yeah, it's shrinking.
It's shrinking, but it was the first group, and it's still
Yeah.
the biggest. It was the biggest group. Now it's shrinking, but that philosophy is still there. And that's what started basically decentralized. So if you look at the evolution of the internet and that technology, so we went from Web 1.0, which was actually decentralized, right?
Yeah.
So I had to make a connection with you and with
Yeah.
right, to communicate, but I actually had to implement the connection. But yeah, think of, let's say, the average mother trying to communicate, the average guy is not going to build any connection. So what you said, focus on the use case. So Web 1.0 was way too over-engineered for the average guy. That was not going to scale.
Yeah, for sure. And we didn't know the added value yet,
No, we
right?
didn't know
Because
the
we were
added
making
value. No,
websites
exactly.
because of the sake of making
Because of
websites.
the sake of making
And we
websites.
didn't know.
And you also had these weird ideas like the 1,000-pixel website, which is similar to the metaverse now. Although it's a lot more advanced than metaverse now, but back then it was very basic. And we thought that was going to be the internet of the future. 20 years, fast forward 20 years, the internet took another turn, right? But okay, so Web 2.0, then they were like, okay, if we solve this connection problem and we centralize it, then the average Joe can access internet.
Yeah.
Can access all these services, But the connection that was centralized, so there was this party called Google in the middle, managing all the connection.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm speaking very loosely from a technical perspective. And then me as a user, I connect to Google and have access to the internet, right?
Yeah.
But then Google is holding all the connection.
Yeah.
Now,
That's what we found out.
that's
right
what we
now.
found out, let's say, after 20 years of
because
of exposure.
I was driving here, and they said on the radio almost every person in the Netherlands will have lost data or will almost have lost data.
Yeah,
right?
by now,
and
I
that's
mean,
the thing
by
of
now
the
it's too
centralized
far.
model. I agree, and that's also what I see from the innovation, right? So blockchain was a hype, blah blah blah, and people loved it. People kicked against it. More people kicked against it. But what I like from these kinds of innovations is like where we're talking about tokenization. It brought tokenization or the innovations of tokenization bigger. Innovation of wallets. Nobody was using, well, the wallets were there, but they were not used in the right way. Right now,
Back then,
a
I mean,
really
it was
bad example,
madness.
Corona Check app, wallet solution. Guys from the Dutch government looking at wallets.
ID.
The verifiable credentials is becoming common, right?
Yeah.
So these are innovations who not directly were pushed because of the technology, and also money, digital money, tokenizing money, not for blockchain sense, but being able to program money is also tokenizing stuff. So that's
but that's a consequence of, let's say, the shift in technology that is happening.
that's the wave that's happening, which I like with the innovations,
Yeah,
right?
but the problem is, we are nerds here at the table, guys, and so we can talk for hours and hours.
Hours and hours.
But let's also face
I'll
it.
just finish the last step of this evolution, because
Yeah.
after
Please do.
Google, that's what blockchain brought in. But again, blockchain as a tool, not as the end goal, is then with blockchain, these guys said, okay, what if we decentralize this access? So it's not just Google paving, let's say, allowing the average Joe to access internet, but it's Google, it's this guy, it's this other
No,
guy.
you're going to a federated model.
And this is like a decentralized model. So you have basically my data, then the Web 2 to Web 3 means that we go from Google owning the data to me as a user owning the data and
to self-sovereign.
exactly
Right?
accessing this infrastructure to use services and on the
Yeah,
internet.
and you can federate identity, you can federate
Exactly.
data, and
this
that's where you.
is doable on the blockchain using tokens, but let's say
But,
tokens and blockchain
but
is a
can we
tool.
make among the three of us here? Can
Yeah.
we? I bet you that we would be unable to use the word blockchain or crypto for 5 minutes.
I will. I will
Okay.
call it Web3 because I learned myself.
All right,
just to
okay.
Uh,
Because if
okay, so the challenge is not to use blockchain
Yes,
for 5 minutes.
yes.
Okay, I put a
And
timer.
the reason is that we lost, I think, 90% of society as soon as they hear the word blockchain, they sign off. They're not
Yeah.
interested.
Yeah.
You really
Yeah, we need to
think
get
that
to the core. Yeah.
if-
Okay,
if
That was
I'll
one
start the
already, that was
timer.
one
Okay.
already.
yeah, you start the timer.
Yeah, let's go.
Because if you ask, your mother or your daughter or whatever,
Yeah.
honey, you should buy an energy token, she will not understand it.
No.
No.
On
yeah,
the other
doesn't
hand,
matter.
if you tell her there is this app, and if you get it, you can have a solar panel on someone else's roof, and you get monthly income. She gets that.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
if you talk in terms of end user value and use cases,
Yeah.
I think we as an industry we owe it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
to society to come forward
Yeah.
with the use cases and stop talking technology too much
I
because
can make
we
you-
lost the people.
I can make you buy.
You
a
want to start
sma-
with a use case?
I can make you buy a small piece of a painting. Well, that's
Of a what?
explainable,
Of a
right?
paint. Yeah,
Of a
yeah, yeah,
painting.
that's explainable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But maybe indeed we could shift to the use case that we did, right? And what we did there, because we made the simplified case of using technology and pushing it into a solution that actually showed that you could use the new technology for an existing business case
Yeah.
and optimize the steps there. So maybe to shift, if you agree,
Yeah,
we
Yeah,
can
so the
shift
use
to-
case, this is how I met
met.
you via...
to Oliver,
yeah.
obviously. He's not here, but he's...
How's he doing, by the way? I haven't spoken to him.
I suppose our
season is
our
start.
paradise bird is still flying around. So
Yeah.
Yeah, so Olivier
Love the
is
guy.
part of Two Tokens. He's part
Yeah.
of the board.
Oh, yeah, he's part of
he
Two
does.
Tokens,
He's
okay.
the research. He manages the research team,
Yeah.
and he's part of the board. And Olivier and I, we started this with the Port of Rotterdam.
yeah, he's obviously
okay.
a thought leader in this kind of things because he's really good at the topic we're now discussing, shifting the technology into an actual solution.
Yeah.
And he
At
he
the
knows-
right level of
Yeah, he
discussion,
knows
yeah.
enough of technology to be able to explain it to, let's say, a normal person in the right use case.
Yes.
And that's in the market, that's a really big benefit. If
Yeah.
you're able to simplify the technology explanation into added value and a solution for your customer, you're king. Because people are looking for innovation, but they need to be able to plot it on their own use case.
When we started to sell email solutions in 1992, we did not start by telling how SMTP and POP3 works.
Exactly.
exactly.
Right?
No.
Nobody wants to know.
I don't even know
No.
what that is.
Yeah.
I mean, I know any.
But back to the use case. I know because I used to do networks, but
Yeah. Now, look, the use case, and that's, I think, how our discussion started between Harlem and Ledger Leopard. So we started looking at, in general, this is something not broadly known, but the stock market, which makes news, it's a very tiny market.
The Bloomberg terminal, you mean?
Yeah, it's a very tiny market. It's now, I think, 40 trillion, something like that. Sounds a lot, but like Apple, for example, is just like 2 of those, for example. And that's only 2% of all the equity available in the world, equity in like private companies, right? So 2%, which means that there's like a 98% where, let's say, regular people don't have access. This is, for example, where an exchange is trying to change the game, right? By allowing people to get exposure in that. And then next to that, there's also the bond market, which is by far the largest market in the financial world. And let's say, as an investment fund, you're basically constantly managing different financial products, whether debt-based, so the bonds, or equity-based, like certificates and stocks. So we started thinking about, is there a use case that we can enable? Time is still running, so I cannot use the word. So is there a use case that we can enable?
Decentralized technologies?
Yeah, exactly. Using decentralized technology, or is there a use case that we can think of to allow access to these products? That was the
yeah. So the actual solution was actually giving access to
giving
these
us access
products,
to
right?
financial markets.
Yeah,
In a regulated manner.
yeah.
In a regulated manner.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but also
exactly.
also access to your own assets, right? So
Exactly.
in
So-
a digital way, seeing your own assets. So
Yeah.
In a good
So, for
way.
example, one of our, I mentioned we're active in credit management. One of our portfolio companies is it's a mortgage issuer in the Netherlands. And to set up that transaction, we basically issue, for example, bonds to investors to participate in that specific proposition, in that specific company. Well, you could do that. You could enable that through technology.
So you issue bonds, and you also
Not us as a fund, but the portfolio company,
Yes.
let's say, to allow investors to participate in a
Yes.
big mortgage portfolio.
yes.
That's just an example.
It's just what Siemens did in February in Germany. Just raised 60 million with the
For
bond.
example, yeah, for example,
from
with
the pro-
bonds.
Yeah.
We
We
made it.
made it.
We made it, yeah.
You
That's,
made it. 5 minutes. Wow.
5
5
minutes without mentioning
Yeah,
blockchain.
see, you
without
can do it.
buzzwords.
That was
Yes.
easy. 5
That was
minutes.
easy, yeah.
Talking about solutions. Nice,
Talking about
nice.
use cases.
But so,
So this was
this
the
solution
main
that you're building, you know,
and then we started thinking as a fund, okay, let's keep an eye on the market. Let's also start building some experience internally, trying to see how we can enable this use case. So let's imagine that we need to manage the whole process of defining, issuing, and managing a financial product like bonds, so debt obligations, or stock certificates. Those are the easiest product. Why? Because there's no middleman in the transaction, right? With shares, you're usually there's a notary. It's a heavier process, also from the regulatory point of view. So using that as a starting point is a lot tougher. So let's start with debt obligations, so a bond and stock certificates, because those can be managed easily. And that was the initial discussion. Then you get into, and then starts the real challenge: is how do you manage the whole issuance? How do you set up the contracts? How do you manage the contracts? How do you set up what replaces
so
cash?
what business in the current
Yeah.
economy, you know, would do something like this? What banks?
The Hilton.
The Hilton?
Right, hotels are constantly in the hotel chains are constantly in need of refinancing their properties, and what they do, they issue bonds on a regular basis. So the Hilton might issue. Yeah, this is by the way not sponsored by Hilton.
I was booking my room already.
Okay, so you would find, for example, just if you have some liquidity you want to invest against a fixed return, you might buy a bond issued by Hilton, you know, respectable name, or any other company. For example, banks do this, but banks, for example, the Rabobank
Yeah.
issues, they issue something called AT1s or 2s, and those are bonds to meet their capital requirements. That's and they're typically perpetual, so they pay, I don't know, 7, 8, 9% a year, and that's how they keep liquidity. But also, let's say small companies who
No,
want
Siemens
to,
raised a $60 million
Yeah,
bond in February.
small companies, who want
Without banks, by the way.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And with small companies, there's also the option of issuing certificates if you want to recapitalize or you need liquidity. So there's a lot of use cases for the businesses. And then there's the let's say if you're managing this, then there's normally what you would do. There's let's say there's a contract, or there's a loan agreement between the investor and the company, or there's let's say there's a structure being incorporated to issue certificates to give ownership to investors, basically, and raise capital. And then the question starts: how do you go about digitizing these contracts? And that's where you need to get smart about how you do it digitally.
That's the where
That's
the,
the
where the
challenge.
Web3 technology comes in.
That's
right?
where Web3 technology comes in.
Yeah, and we
But my question would be offering this kind of service to Hilton, and what kind of company would build this service and put it in the market? Would it be an exchange? Would it be a bank? You know,
Yeah,
who
look,
would build this?
technically,
One of
so
your portfolio companies, surely.
Yeah, exactly. Now, look, banks could do it. Banks are doing it now. There's an exchange is doing it for small equities, so small companies who want to recapitalize, and they offer, for example, bond proposition and also an equity proposition. I think it's tokenized, but it's not on the blockchain. There's also companies who are trying this on the blockchain. for more like DAO organization or decentralized organizations that offer the infrastructures and the tools for companies to build this. So there's different approaches right now. There's, for
And
example,
the question I ask is because right now it's still early stages. It's small potatoes. But how do we make it in a way that the big companies
and that's
get
the,
access to
yeah,
it,
that's the
right?
question. That's
How do we make it in a way that the big shipbuilder or a big,
Yeah.
who needs refinancing of stock or whatever can
By
use this
first
service?
proving the
And who would they go to?
Yeah.
Right?
That's a bit because so that's one side of the equation, and the other one is typically these large transactions are done by institutional investors, pension funds,
Yes.
and other big investment banks. So how do you make it in a way that they're able to use the infrastructure?
So
And
this
this
new
is the
setup,
biggest challenge.
the banks will have a new role to play.
The banks will have a new role. So if you if you look at how the transaction runs right now, right, with banks in the middle, with notaries in the middle, lawyers in the middle, those guys will their role will change. I remember I was in a conference, and now blockchain is a big of a buzz, right? So in every I think it's a conference about the big market of mortgages and mortgage issuance and all of that, and there was a blockchain panel. The most boring blockchain panel I've ever been at, with like, I don't know, 60-plus-year-old lawyers who didn't have a clue of what blockchain meant. And I remember this specific woman saying, yeah, we're a bit reluctant to adopt blockchain because we haven't figured out how we're going to make fees. It's like, are you...
Well, and the model actually works, right? But
The model works, but their role will change.
Yeah, their
For
role
example,
will change.
The notary will have a different role in this ecosystem.
Yeah, but also from
The
a
bank will have a different role.
from a regulatory perspective, you need to think it through very well, right? Because you also always have the issuer, the holder, and the verifier, even in these models, right? So how am I gonna check that the issuer is the actual
Correct.
issuer?
Yeah.
How does the holder know that? How can I verify that it's actually there? How is it done by law? How does it work from an AFM perspective? Do I need to have money in the bank to be able to back up everything?
So these guys will still be there, just their role will be different. So in our use case, okay, let's work it down in simple language. So I'm a company who's looking for capital, really simple.
Yeah.
And I issue a loan. Let's keep it super simple. You are an investor, and let's say that you are the platform, okay? So I come to the platform, I identify myself. So in this identification step, you can involve a notary, right, who holds the link between me as an entity and my wallet.
Yeah, and that can be in a you as a person, but also you as a company, right? We talked about PayPal and
so
stuff.
imagine, so I'm an
There's
entity.
technology for that.
I'm an entity who's looking to refinance. You're the platform, so I come to you and you identify me as, let's say, in a regulated way.
Yeah.
And you hold somewhere the link. You're the only one who holds the link between the wallet and me as an entity, and that can also be replaced by a notary, for example.
Yeah.
Thinking out loud here. So you list my proposition on your platform, and Jeroen comes to you and identifies himself as an investor. And then let's say that I'm looking to raise 10 million, so I issue 10 million on the platform, and Jeroen comes to the platform and says, I'm willing to invest 10 million in this proposition.
Of course.
Yeah, so, and then as a platform, we have the question, okay, where does the 10 million come from? Who are you as an investor? Are you on any sanction lists?
You need the whitelist, you need the KYC,
Exactly.
the AML.
So these things should,
these
things should be done somewhere. Now they're done in the traditional financial world. For example, the bank, the notary, every party involved in the transaction has a responsibility to check that. In the decentralized world, it's a bit vague. Who the heck has to check that?
And now we're shifting to another topic. For one, do you have the self-sovereign identity part, right?
Yeah.
Where you can be platform independent, so not depending, and
you
have an
then
issued
you're shifting
identity.
The responsibility.
European wallet is coming, so I can move my credential to you. You can verify the signature on the credential. And you can say, this is your
right now we're there where we are building this infrastructure, and it will just be a service that you can call.
But which
right?
means that if he logs in, let me put it this way, with his European ID,
Yeah.
then you basically, the burden of proof shifts from you as a platform to the wallet provider.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, or to the issuer
To
of
the issuer
of
of
the credential actually.
of the credential.
because,
Yeah, sorry,
you're
not the wallet
checking the
provider.
signature. So
Yeah.
it's the Dutch government's responsibility to keep the signature high, but they also do that in the past.
Yeah,
So,
and
but,
that's
in
where
the end,
the,
do you, because we're talking decentralized
Yeah,
solutions
yeah,
here,
sorry,
but
sorry.
so which provides more efficiency, I think, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be cheaper, I hope, in the long run.
I expect so.
Do you also think it will provide more liquidity?
no, I think it will. I think the core, because cheap is just a matter of scale, right? Liquidity is just a matter of adoption. I think the core is it will provide me as a user of the
Less friction. Less
no,
friction.
it will give me the opportunity to just own and manage my data and my funds. That's it.
Yeah, so in a better
That's the
way,
core.
in a digital way. So what, like you would want it, you
But that
want to have
seems like a very thin added value, for building all this decentralized tech.
Yeah, but and that
Yeah, but
I
that's
know
also
like
the value of your digital identity, right?
that's the
You
core.
want to have it on your phone.
Yeah, but when we started, I remember I was in the mobile industry, right? I remember in 2006, the CEO of Microsoft back then said,
Yeah.
I'm never going to use a Game Boy to make phone calls, right? And he was referring to the first iPhone,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, and then of course, adoption of the iPhone rocketed and the rest is
Was
history.
that Steve Ballmer?
That was
or
Steve Ballmer,
obviously.
right.
First-
Developers,
Yeah.
No,
But the thing,
that's
the same
very
is
essential
with
that
decentralized tech.
Yeah.
Is the iPhone of if you refer back to decentralized tech and the iPhone moment in 2006, 2007, right?
yeah.
Whoa.
Or
the VR glasses. So yeah.
there's
Yeah,
going
yeah,
to be tons of applications that we here at the table don't know yet
Obviously.
that will drive adoption because just user friendliness and having
but
that's not enough.
No, but from a technology perspective, you can say it's user friendliness. You have everything on your own phone. The thought behind it is that you actually own everything that's on your own phone,
and
right?
that seems weird.
Yeah,
that
but
seems-
but
that's
Jeroen, do
part
you
of-
really think that the average Joe
That's
or
what
the
I'm saying,
average
so-
Sue, she doesn't care,
but
right?
that's
That's
the
what
thought
might
behind
kill
it.
it. That's
Yeah.
honestly that's what might kill it because, look, this is really the essence. If it comes to, for example, back to the financial markets and that example that I was explaining, if he invests in this proposition, so the loan agreement, the certificates, the stocks, or whatever, he is the actual owner of those certificates.
Yeah.
So he's the custodian. So now, if you buy an ETF on any investment app, or if you buy an index on the, you're technically not the owner of that index. That product is held by a custodian, is held by other institution, and it's put on your name. But if that institution fails, you might lose your.
Yeah, but people
You
don't
might lose.
understand that.
People
But
don't understand
the
that.
new
So they just
HP
see a free investment app,
Yeah.
and then they don't realize that they actually are giving up. So that freedom comes at a price, and the price is you're giving up ownership of the actual financial product. And then so it's free. So how does that guy make the money? So the investment app, I'm not going to mention any name. They, for example, they might lend your products. So they might lend your product to someone else who does trades, to traders, to market makers, to all of that.
And
stuff.
there will be
and you're
new-
not aware.
So I
So if
agree.
someone-
Okay, so but
and that's the
if you
key.
think fintech, financial industry as one industry, that would be the low-hanging fruit. That would be the usual suspect for decentralized technologies.
Yeah.
But there are other technologies, other industries, I think,
Yeah.
who are even more lower-hanging fruit that benefit from
Well,
decentralized technologies.
like we said, the gaming industry.
Gaming
is
industry,
obviously
yes.
very nice.
Energy.
But also energy marketing is also from, let's say, from a decentralized identity perspective.
What about
Mar-
sustainability? Carbon credit or nitrate.
Obviously.
Yeah, yeah.
So those are all things that you can do, which can be, let's say, the Hyperledger CEO sent me the least centralized, right? So not completely, but where you can use this kind of things, where it brings new business models and new added value for specific use, right? But
Not the
like,
Hyperledger, the Ledger Leopard.
the Hyperledger CEO.
The Leopard Ledger.
I wish, but Brian Bendeldorf, I need to give the credits for that. But I agree. But that's why I'm more or less jealous of platforms like Binance and stuff, or the crypto shit that the youngsters are using, because they're actually using it.
Yes, but it's a generational
But it's
thing.
not,
huh?
it's not
I
scalable.
don't- yeah,
though.
it's not
I mean,
scalable,
I've been
but
messing around with this since 17, but like I cannot expect my mom to plug
no,
wallets
but for
and do all this
example,
kind of stuff.
I've been working for years and years with freaking Ethereum, right? Searching for the best, so like you say, the best added value. Then the father of Vitalik comes and he invents CryptoKitties, which almost made the whole platform die because so much people start playing with it. So the adoption comes obviously in strange angles where the added value isn't there, but just
Of
people
Pepe,
use it,
Doge,
right? Yeah,
and
and
these
then
kind of
new
things.
business models come. So that I suppose so. It's very hard from the core values. So like you can have your own identities, you own your own
That's
your
a
own
big
assets.
proposition.
So that's a big proposition, but which people don't understand
No.
till the point that it goes wrong. So we're always looking for like, okay, the added value here is that you have it on your own phone. I have my own credit stuff on my own phone. Well, that brings people
Yeah.
understand that
But
and I
we
wish it would be
bullshit.
differently.
For example, I'm using a cloud storage provider, decentralized, called Storage.
Yeah,
Works just like Dropbox. So in terms of use case, there's zero difference.
yeah.
In the back, of course, there's a wallet, there's miners, there's tokens, but you don't see that as a user, right? You log in with your
Yeah,
email.
we're
that's it.
beyond that. We don't need to talk about that anymore.
You don't need to talk about it anymore. But what's the key difference? That if I click on a file, and that's a cool feature that they have, they show you. Maybe I can send an image. We can put it up in the editing. They show you a world map with all the miners who have approved that transaction, which is you uploading the file, and they show you all the miners that own a little piece of your document. And that's amazing. So
I'm sorry, I'm just average Joe.
I
don't care. I don't care who mines. As a matter of fact, I have
No,
a problem with that mining because it's not green.
no, okay, no.
Okay, so
But-
these are the discussions that we
Okay.
face.
But,
So
the
we
big,
Yeah, but-
but a big added value for me with these kinds of decentralized data, I'm a CTO, right? I have all kinds of stuff which I don't want other people to touch,
Yeah.
which I also even don't trust Amazon, Google, etc. with, because I've seen so many
that
cases
is a good
that went
argument,
wrong.
right? So if
But
you
that's
want to get away
amazing.
from big tech,
I want to get away from and I want to own it myself because
Yeah.
I'm secure that I'm the
That's
best
the only way you
security
own
of
it.
it,
Yeah.
right? And I can own my own data in the right way.
okay, but there's two types of people in the world: people who care about owning it themselves, and people who are ignorant about
that
it, right?
group is growing. So the people who are
Yeah.
starting to understand that having control over your own data is important. And there's a whole big world around that, right? Because if I have my own data, if I own my own assets, and I lose my password, what's the case then? So all those kinds of usability things is in the innovation growing, but we're not there yet, right?
No.
So
But look, in the core is much deeper because again, now honestly we've gotten lazy, right? Like because we don't take ownership for what we have, for the stuff for the services, the data, whatever we have. Because you can go as far as saying banks have no use anymore, like commercial banks, right? Because if I store my funds in a decentralized manner, but then if I'm the owner of my funds, really truly the owner of my funds, then I need to start thinking about how to invest them, right? I need to start thinking because now, the average guy gets lazy, goes to the bank, parks the money, and then the bank takes the responsibility to invest that money, right? And then they fuck up, and then they don't some banks. But if you look at the traditional banks, don't look at freaking Silicon Valley Bank. Okay, those are some exceptions. But if you look at the average bank, with acting within the regulated system, they're doing a pretty good job, and they are taking the responsibility of managing your funds. So if you then become the owner, you need to start thinking about how to create an interest on your savings. You need to start thinking about how to keep them secure. And
So
then the core of the discussion
it's a do-it-yourself banking system.
but then the core of the
towards?
discussion. I don't know if we're going towards that,
more or
but
less. But the thing is also
but then the bank changes role, right? The bank will have to change role into an investment bank, meaning that I then have the freedom to say, you know what, I don't even know how to invest this money, but I see that Rabobank is doing a good job in South America helping farmers, so I'll put willingly my money to the Rabobank for this project. And now what's happening that, for example, personally I don't like is that, let's say I put I give money to a bank, I have zero visibility in what happens to that money.
Yeah, and
Zero.
the thing is also what's happening now. Data is becoming more and more important in our lives, right? And
Yeah.
it's becoming where it was not tangible or touchable. It becomes more touchable because we have more and more, and we want more ownership over it. And tokenizing that kind of stuff so connecting it to your identity in a unique way, right? Because it is a unique representation in a smaller form of the ownership of your digital assets. That's, I think, a really important part where we're moving forward to in this decentralized way, right?
Yeah,
So that's what it's actually doing, and
So
that's what I like.
One final question.
Yeah,
because
the
we're coming
half an
to-
hour we talked so much. I don't know if it was a straight
we
line,
need to
but,
do a second episode.
but
but,
but I
Maybe,
like
yeah.
the
it.
final question for you, Ewan. What do you think is going to be the killer app that makes the difference for the? We're all looking for that killer app, right?
Well, very, 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 very good question. If I tell everyone, then everyone will know.
Yeah.
No, but I'm not gonna say what I can't give the answer to the killer app. But what I believe is that the killer app is in wallets and verifiable identities and on your mobile phone. So ownership of your identity and doing stuff with
So
it.
those are the enablers.
So those are the enablers. So I believe you can find the enablers in there. The killer app I didn't find yet. So
And then I have another question for you. What would be the next company that you are going to make, the next unicorn that you're going to put money in?
don't say Ledger Leopard because everyone knows that. Obviously.
The first unicorn. Poof. Yeah, I think, okay, in terms of unicorn discussion for a fund, you never know.
No.
You never know. It's just, I don't know, making viral content. How do you make viral content? You don't. You just make content, and then something is picked up and something that is not picked up. So I think from our perspective, we have a clear investment strategy in financial markets, and we're gonna stick to that. When it comes to crypto, I think the key is to focus on, again, utility and use cases. And I think the best company will be a company where people don't even know that blockchain is behind
You
it.
use the word again.
Well, I use it in a way
I
that
need to listen
Well,
back.
then you're a good company because that's what we do
That's
with the
what-
foundation. We
yeah.
develop use cases as a
yeah. So I think
non-for-profit,
that should be the focus. And the best company in the space will be a company where people are not even aware that there's all this complication in the background. So I see it, and when I say I also say as a fund, Harlem Capital, we see it more as Linux. You don't know that you're using this guy, and you don't know that all the server-to-server communication is built on Linux. You don't need to know,
Intel Inside, yeah.
And that's the role that blockchain will fill in the future. And one of those companies will give us the unicorn.
Those are the famous last words of this podcast. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you for
and,
having us.
Yeah.
Come back soon,
That's
and
a nice
we'll
discussion.
discuss that
Yeah,
next
I think
I would like to
there's
continue,
one aspect that we didn't cover, which is transparency and
obviously.
and provenance of the blockchain. That can be
that we will
save
save for the next episode.
We'll save for the next episode.